All right, and one of the point people for some of those new projects is Tarik Brooks. He's president of Combs Enterprises, of course, a portfolio of businesses, the namesake of hip-hop entrepreneur Sean Diddy Combs. Of course, you know it, Bad Boy Records, Ciroc Vodka, Revolt TV. Combs Enterprises teaming up with the likes of JP Morgan Chase and PayPal to support minority entrepreneurs through the PPP loan funding initiative. Our Fair Share. Tarik is the former COO of account management and trading at Bridgewater Associates and the former head of entertainment and hospitality at RLJ Entertainment. All right, a lot to go through here, Tarik. Let's start off with the involvement of Combs Enterprises in this PPP program, the partnership with JP Morgan, and exactly what types of businesses, I guess, are taking advantage of this program.
Great. Well, thank you very much for having me. You just mentioned, a year ago, thinking about where we were at that point in time. And one of the things we recognized very early is that African American and Latinx businesses don't have the access to capital that many other businesses have. And so they enter a situation like the pandemic disproportionately vulnerable. So we built our fair share to really accomplish three things. One, we wanted to help create awareness about the program amongst this community of entrepreneurs. Two, we wanted to educate people on what it would take to be successful in the PPP loan process, including forgiveness. And three, to connect potential borrowers with lenders who wanted to help support this community. So last year when we started, we partnered with some great firms like Square and Cabbage and a couple of CDFIs to launch the program and help make this connection. And we were successful. We were able to help hundreds of African American and Latinx entrepreneurs get access to capital. And this cycle, when we came back, we were thrilled to add JP Morgan and PayPal to our list of lenders because what we saw in the first round of PPP was, although our efforts were valiant, Black entrepreneurs still only received about 2% of PPP funding. So there is a long way to go. And so we believe intermediaries like ourselves are necessary in bridging, helping to bridge the gap.
Let's talk about that gap that needs to be bridged. In particular, how important is it to have the biggest lender involved, JP Morgan? What are the role that the minority-owned banks are currently playing, ones that are really integral and ingrained within many of the Black communities already?
Yeah, so the problem we are tackling is really the fundamental problem of access to capital. So leave the pandemic aside, African American entrepreneurs are twice as likely to not be approved for loans. When you look at, Black women entrepreneurs are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in the country, but yet they will receive less than 1% of venture capital funding. So the thing we're really trying to crack is this access to capital problem. And it's going to take everybody. It's going to take fintechs, it's going to take major money center banks, and it'll take minority-owned banks. Our partner in our fair share, the Harbor Bank of Maryland, does a great job in its local community in Baltimore of getting out to those people, bridging the gap and connecting those people with capital, but they don't have the reach or the scale that somebody like JP Morgan would have. And so what JP Morgan and other big money center banks really bring to the table is the scale and wherewithal to do this thing across the country and really reach communities in a broad base. And what we provide is an amplification platform that can speak to this community directly with a trusted voice.
We're having a broader conversation today about borrowing costs rising. We were speaking earlier about the 30-year mortgage rate starting to tick up. What are you hearing from some of the other lenders, the Cabbage, the PayPals, on the willingness to lend, and then, of course, the rates at which they are lending at to make sure that those rates are still affordable to the people who need them?
Yeah, so I think that the problem that the big banks and others really face is a trust gap. Again, this problem is not brand new. It's a problem that's built on years and years of our community not being treated fairly. And so one of the things that they're finding is, despite well-intentioned efforts, there are people in our community that just don't trust the big banks. And so part of what we bring to the table is the ability to kind of bridge that gap and offer effectively a kind of seal of approval. And so from that perspective, we're able to make that connection be more impactful and hopefully, if done right, to have more of these loans actually go through. Now, with PPP, this program is actually, fairly set. Like, the government has laid out all of the stipulations around rates and term and forgiveness and all those things. So this particular program is less impacted by any kind of near-term move in rates. But as you can imagine, a community that has been kind of disproportionately impacted by the pandemic, both from a health outcome perspective and an economic outcome perspective, will be in additional trouble as rates rise.
And with regards to the attention that a lot of traditional mainstream businesses are now giving to black-owned businesses and some of the causes that are sort of associated with those businesses, do you see that attention as lasting here, Tarik? Or we get one a year or 2 years down the road and all of these companies just decide, okay, they want to move on to the next thing?
So look, we are in a very important moment in our country. When you think about a lot of the social justice activity that was accelerated by George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and other incidents, a lot of companies have taken steps to move in the right direction. Part of what we try to show folks when we deal with them with Combs Enterprises is to really help them understand that this is not just an issue that's a moment in time. Like, they need to view the inefficiencies around the Black community's access to capital, the inefficiencies around the wealth gap, as real inefficient markets, right? So, in a functioning economy that works well, capital should flow into inefficient markets to be able to kind of fix and resolve those issues. And so we look at this as a real opportunity. So beyond, it being the right thing to do, it's just good business to figure out how to empower communities of entrepreneurs that foster creativity, that create jobs, that create wealth in these communities. There's really a benefit, for all of us.